Turn that shit down. Okay. Taking a look at some charts. USDCAD. Starting the monthly, work our way down to the daily. Okay, so 2016, start of 2016, made this high, came to test it early 2020 when the COVID hysteria took place. We essentially have stayed range bound for almost a decade at this point. At the start of February, not long after Trump administration took over in the United States, we spiked this high for the first time in, like I said, almost 10 years, 9 years I suppose, which is also an equal high. So for the past decade, this is the last barrier before USDCAD either completely flies or in this case remains completely range bound. This is obviously a very, very large range, as you can see, ridiculously large range. Lots of trade opportunities, so I'm going to just use this higher time frame, monthly, etc. as a general guidance. Some things that I'm interested in is at the end of April, where do we close? Are we going to close back within this previous range? Okay, between 1.309 and 1.39800. If we close on a monthly basis back within this monthly range, this previous monthly high from back in October 2022, then maybe we can look to play the range as such on a monthly basis and look for further downside. Alternatively, if we get monthly closes above this area here, then we can potentially look to play this range back up into those highs and actually take them out properly once and for good, on the next occasion. But that monthly, obviously, I don't tend to execute trades on the monthly here. We're just using it as a general gauge to get a general understanding of what's going on. So on a monthly basis, these are the two ranges that I'll be looking to play. It entirely depends on the monthly closures, so we got 2-3 weeks before we really have to put much credence to any of that stuff there. Yo, Solar Pluto, what's good? So yeah, we're still playing within the monthly range, etc, etc. Work our way down some of the lower time frames so we can get a better understanding of what's going on. So you can roughly see the same thing on the weekly, right? The range is a little bit clearer, especially this lower time frame range here. It's more immediate range, a little bit clearer, but it's the same premise on the weekly. We spiked into it, we moved back below. I'll get, what's important to note is this weekly close for this specific week's been super violent, okay? Shows that there is follow through, that there is momentum, that we did grab enough liquidity, and we also did so with a good high, in the sense that we didn't spend enough time there for tons and tons of sellers and retail to get in. There's going to be many people who were able to actually get in on this position because of how quickly it moved, as you see on the daily. We actually opened up here on the start of the week, okay, on Monday, and then rocketed straight down. I guess we initially pumped back up, but then rocketed straight down, so there's going to be such limited time for people to get into the market. We can consider this to be a good high. We can consider it to not have tons and tons of stop losses, seller stop losses placed above them, okay? So with this fixed in place at the time being, obviously the downside was more likely. In terms of this short setup that I have on the screen, it's pretty self-explanatory. We breached the monthly equal highs once I stood for a decade, moved back below them. So this spike also coincided with taking out the December highs, okay, and I guess the highs of January too. So these highs here, as you can see that they grouped up 1, 2, 3, 4, I suppose, and you can know that there's going to be a bunch of liquidity that was resting above them. They all got wiped out. We had violent move back below there. Once we eventually come to an underside retest, you can see just wicks into the upside, clear demand for sells. At the same time, we're just filling some of the inefficiencies of this candle. Your entry trigger could be in one or two scenarios. Okay, so this secondary retest, once the daily closed so poorly, you could have looked to take this sell either on this candle or with the follow through candle, one that's shown some momentum. Alternatively, you can see that we formed these highs here. As we tapped into the VWAP, we actually printed a swing failure pattern of those same highs. Before reversing to the downside, you could have used this as your entry, you could have used the VWAP to help gauge your entry. There was tons of opportunities to get into this position here. If you are in a swing trader, etc, etc. With that said, I think the downside for the time being is somewhat limited. So if we remove some of this stuff here, just make it a little bit clearer. First things first, there's obviously a large inefficiency and large or lack of volume, buy side volume, that is going to be rested between this zone here, let's say between 1.4 and 1.41. That's obviously psychological level is going to be a key zone. If we have an underside retest, like so, and we reject from here, then we can look for that further downside, okay? But because of, you've had such a large move to the downside, you're looking at what, 500, almost 600 pips so far since where I've got the entry placed. Obviously the higher EV play at this point is going to be to trim this position. You can also see that coincides with a couple other things. So if we were to take from this low up to this high here, you'll see that we're kind of trading within this cluster here. At the same time, if we come up to the weekly, were we to anchor a view up, that daily will probably be cleaner. If we were to anchor a view up from, let's say, the most recent low from this range, you'll see that we are interacting with the VWAP right now. We've had a nice little bounce off of it on a daily and a weekly basis. Okay, so with this in mind, trimming the position at this point, assuming you're in sells, is the higher EV play, but this isn't really enough confluence for you to go ahead and take buys. So if you're in sell positions, then trimming your positions, sensible play. If you've got nothing on the table, then taking buys isn't quite optimal just yet. Okay. In terms of the primary target I've got, depends on how you want to draw it. You could also draw it on like so, depending if you're using the daily or the weekly, but I'm just looking for some volume to get filled in this area here between like 1.37 and 1.36, let's say. On a weekly basis, super violent closure, which kind of suggests that we're just going to get something basic like I plotted on the daily, like literally just an underside retest, follow, and then some follow through. Okay, that is a potential sell setup that you could be looking to take in the coming weeks. With that said, you want to be keeping a tight invalidation, because if we get above this imbalance, then we can quite quickly come to look to take out this area here and this area here. Okay, if we get above this imbalance, it will likely come up super quickly. So if you were going to take sell positions the coming days, weeks, on like a swing basis, you want tight invalidations. Obviously the best entries have been and gone, but we're always looking to add more, make some more money, make some more moves. So an underside retest of that imbalance, show some weakness, so show some weak daily closures, and a lower time frame setup and confluence of it, and you can look to execute sells down to like this 1.37, 1.3600 region. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing on USDCAD. That's how I've kind of been plotting it, how I've been trading it, how I've been following it. Alright. Obviously I'm not much of a swing trader myself, for those of you who know, but I do like to have my higher time frame plots just so I can keep up to date on what's going on, make sure everything's in accordance and alignment with one another, time frame wise. Yeah, super clean range on the monthly. Will be interested to see how this month closes. retesting into the monthly closures from October 23 and October 22. So if we can hold on to this zone monthly basis, structure will still be intact, and you can look to play this range here. Okay, back into the range highs. In terms of some other charts I can go over. GA sell that we had from the end of last week. Since Wednesday we're moving down on pound Aussie. Had this big candle here, okay, left a lot of inefficiency within the candle. I think if we come down to 30 minutes, a little bit clearer on this candle. So what we were looking for is for this area to get filled. We got that firstly in Asia. Off of the London Open, London spiked the Asian high. They took control of the high, took control of the stop losses, and then these wicks to the upside being completely slammed down. They showed that it was indicative of demand for sells. Showed that London wanted to move price to the downside. Now they're in control of the high, so we executed sells. Maybe it was a little bit early. I think I took quite early on this candle, but we had follow through for practically the rest of the London session. On the New York switchover, we did have some spikes back into the bottom area of our imbalance, and we were rejected from there again. This was again the final confirmation, this candle here. Okay, once we kind of gave this little retest into the zone on the New York switchover, 3 p.m. London time, and we started having this follow through. As soon as this candle closed, I was practically certain of this trade coming through to the downside. In terms of where I actually TP'd, I TP'd one around here, basically just before the close. This is the Asian low from the previous session. I'm not interested in carrying a trade like this over the weekend. It's a 30-minute plot. You know, I don't need to carry the risk. This is super simple trades, type one that you can take week in, week out. When you have that big weekly move like this one here that defines the trend of the week, you can look for this retest of where the volume or where the lack of volume is, and within that lack of volume, you want to be looking for a lower time frame setup. Okay, like we did here. We had the Asian high, spike the Asian high, etc. That's a week in, week out simple trade that you can take. In terms of what you want to see next on the GA, I think that early next week that the optimal trade is going to be something like this, where we spike the lows, we get back above. As soon as we hold this low in some capacity, we can look to take it to the upside. Okay, this would be my preferred move on GA. With that said, I don't believe in predicting price, I believe in reacting to price. Okay, so while this is my preferred scenario, the scenario that will offer the higher risk to reward, the scenario that makes more sense to me at this present moment in time, I will also have sell scenarios in mind. So for example, a sell scenario, if we were to clean this up just a little bit, that we could look for next week. If we're in a super aggressive trend, then it could be a case of we go into this to fill this imbalance here, and then we move and take out this low. That could be the first trade of the week. Again, I don't really like trading the first session of the week. I'll wait for London or New York on the Monday. But that's something we can see if the trend is aggressive. In terms of another type of sell position, what we can see here, if on the start of the week in the open we don't have this move to the downside or just a straight move to take these lows, and we actually want to come up first, what I would like to see is if we were to plot our Fibonacci from these highs down to these lows, I would like to see some type of retest into this pocket of the Fibonacci here, which is in alignment with quite a lot of this volume that has been traded. Okay, a lot of these orders that were traded over the Friday between London and New York. I would like to see a retest of this volume here. Alright, if they want to get out of their positions on this, especially the buyers, then it's going to send sell pressure to the market, further downside. What I am reiterating at this point, however, and really the point of me showing you that sell setup is more of a fact of don't try to predict price, react to price. Be prepared for all the circumstances and just react to what price offers. Okay, for example, if on this candle that we didn't actually start pushing below, if price starts holding up here and we start pushing above this high, I need to react to what's happening, okay? I can't just idly sit there like a fucking fish, you know, and just hope for the best. I need to react to what the price does and what the price is telling me. So you don't want to have these polarized biases. Just try to be a bit more fluid, be open to all scenarios, and react to what's happening in real time. Okay, that's mainly the point of me showing both those setups. With that in mind, I do think these lows here, the ones that we formed on the Thursday, will be taken early into next week, whether it's straight away like so, or whether we come up, have some type of fuckery here and then come down. Alright, these lows will likely be interacted with. I'll be taking a trade from this area at some point or another, whether it's going to be my target from sells or whether it's going to be my entry for buys. Okay, I got a little bit more time before I got to go off, I've got to shoot off, so I'll have a look at another chart. What else have we got here? I want to have a look at BTC. I haven't got this mapped out right now. I've got it mapped to my head, you know. If I were to break this down as fast as I can, 10 minutes or so, we got poor, it's relatively equal lows down here at 74k. Okay, this is not the low of Bitcoin. Like 80%, 70% certainty, this is not the low on Bitcoin. This is a poor low, it's relatively equal. There's going to be a retest of this area. Okay, so I've got this area with a bit of magnetization of mind. Next things that we want to plot, plot the major highs. Okay, this area here on Coinbase, we didn't actually sweep this high, but I believe on the futures market for Binance and other exchanges, this high actually got swept. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then what's more important for the time being is if we take a look at this imbalance here. Okay, what's also important is the fact that we are trading at the midpoint of this imbalance as we speak. This is also in alignment with the high that we formed at the end of the previous week. Okay, not the Friday, not yesterday, but the previous Friday. So we've got a couple factors of confluence in this zone here for Bitcoin. I would like to see some type of weakness, potentially some type of range being formed over this weekend. Okay, between now and Sunday, we form some type of range. We have some type of, you know, illiquid bullshit. Maybe spike the highs, maybe spike the lows. Whoever cares. Okay, we trade within this range across the weekend. Come Monday or Sunday night, as the markets begin to open, I would like to see it break down this range and start showing some weakness, get back beneath this high here from the previous Friday, show that this imbalance is being filled and that it's being used as resistance. And once we start showing legitimate weakness, then we can truly consider downside on Bitcoin. In terms of targets, we obviously got the low from Thursday, and our primary target would be the 74,400 zone here. Okay, these relatively equal lows. So if I were to plot this out, it could be looking something like this. I would want to stop loss marginally above here, above these highs here, marginally above the imbalance. I want my target to be right down at those lows, and my entry, let's just say for good measure, 84,500. Give yourself a bit of space, okay, so you don't have to get this exact line. That would be a 5.3, 5.5 risk to reward setup, depending on which entry you get, what exact stop loss you use, etc. But this is what I will be eyeing up for Bitcoin come the end of this weekend. Okay, so if I break that down again, I want to see some type of range across this weekend. We fuck within this range. Come Sunday night, Monday morning, once the trading sessions for the weeks begin, I want to see a breakdown this range off the weakness. I'll look to take some sells. Target 1 is going to be Thursday's low. Primary target are the lows that we formed on Monday and on Wednesday. Okay. So super simple setup on Bitcoin that you can most likely all track and most likely you'll execute yourself without me holding your hand. Okay, really easy setup. Just make sure you're using 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour confirmations and not 5 minute confirmations. Okay, this is a trade that you'd expect to take 2 to 3, maybe even 4 days to play out. The depending on how the market's moving. Traditionally, Bitcoin does have a few days of doing nothing, and then in one day makes the whole move, you know. So that's why we'll allow this weekend, this liquids, next set of a liquid days to just do what it wants to do, and then we'll come back to it Sunday night and look to take advantage of this potential setup. As previously mentioned on with the GA chart, obviously I don't want to be too polarized and say, oh, I'm bearish on Bitcoin, I'm bearish. The primary reason I'm bearish is I believe these lows to be really weak, and I believe they're going to get taken. With that said, I believe the same thing about these highs up here, okay, at 88,000. I believe that they'll get run. So the current range that I'm essentially expecting to be traded within is this 88k to 74k range. It's a massive 14,000 pip range is that what I'm looking for Bitcoin to trade within. If over the next few days we hold it and we actually break above the range, we have this range expansion, then I would most likely not have gotten to the position, firstly, because it wouldn't have met my validation. And secondly, I'll allow this to run into the 88k and then look to set up the sell from above the 88,000 back down for an even greater target, for an even greater risk to reward, etc, etc. Okay. But this is definitely, from my perspective, the range to play on Bitcoin on the longer term, the 88k to the 74k. I believe they're both going to get run at some point or another. It just kind of depends in what order. So based off the setup I've got on the screen, as long as we show this weakness, okay, it's really important that we show this weakness here, then I would be expecting a longer term move more like this, okay. So we're going to come down and sweep the 74k, we're going to come back up, and then eventually sweep the 88k. Okay, once we've kind of swept both the extremities of this range on this daily basis, then it will be a lot clearer as to whether we're going to be having some range expansion or whether we're going to have range contraction. Okay. That's what I am seeing on Bitcoin. So this little test live stream is probably going to shut it down. 20 minutes or so, it's been 20 minutes. Alright, I'm going to leave this stream up for anyone who wants to rewatch. I will post it in one of the relevant channels, or post a link wherever it needs to be. If you like it, if you like the streams, if something you want me to do more of and want it to be a bit, prepared for, instead of just pressing the on button, let me know. Comments, DM, whatever. Let me know. I'll try to get some more of these out, maybe a couple times a week if the demand exists. With that said, that's all from me now. Take care, guys.